3D construction printer developer and manufacturer. We hope you're looking forward to learning more about COBOD International's project today. This is a lower job creating project, but the project will still create immense value for our community. So we welcome you guys onto the call today, and let's get started. So today's agenda, we're going to go ahead and meet GSLI and our team, talk a little bit about who we are for those who have never met us before, overview the project. So you're going to get to know COBOD and all things about their needs for US expansion. You are also going to be able to ask questions. So we're going to open up mics. You can talk directly with the project and get all of your questions answered very quickly. So should you be here, we have a couple different types of people on the call with us today. Community clients, so these are communities that are part of our Elite Alliance, and these are communities we directly work with and trust because they're part of our alliance. We have trial communities, communities that are interested in using their one free project submission on COBOD, observing companies and site locators. When I was looking at who's on the call today, we have numerous companies, educators, US economic development organizations on the call. So thank you guys all for being on the call. It should be really informative for all of you. And then we have observing communities. So communities just wanting to learn more about a growing company, might not be able to help it, but they're just curious to learn more about what this company is looking for in terms of a new US site. These are just some general housekeeping items that we always go through on our Prospect Live events. You should already be muted. If you want to go live and raise your hand, talk to the project, please do that at the Q&A session at the end of the PowerPoint. And you can ask all of your questions in the Q&A section. So if something comes up in the middle of the webinar, you hear a stat, a figure, you want to clarify something as COBOD is going through their presentation, please throw it into the Q&A section and we will answer those accordingly, just in the order that they are received. We are also recording and transcribing this webinar, so you will be able to watch the recording and or download the transcription for future reference, and that'll be in the project portal. So we will let you know exactly where you need to go to view and listen to that. All right, so who's with us today? So obviously my name is Brooke Edwards. I'm more of the moderator here. I am the project director at GSLI. We have Eric Kleinsorge, who is the CEO, Ashley Kleinsorge as the project manager, Philip Lund Nielsen, co-founder and head of Americas for COBOD International. And then we also have Ola Ellinghausen, who is the head of manufacturing at COBOD. So welcome everybody. We're excited to get this presentation going. So real quick, for those of you who've never interacted with GSLI, you have never worked with us before, we are a full service site selection consultant and economic development marketing agency. So we like to say that we bridge the gap between a growing company and the US communities offering site location solutions to that company's needs. So as a part of our site selection services, we help to streamline that site location search by really optimizing site decisions and helping a company to maximize their economic incentives with a new US capital investment. So when a company plans to develop a new facility in the US, it really needs to gather information about potential sites and communities for its project. And there is a need for a third-party site location consultant sometimes, and we would love to be that company if there are companies on this call today that are in need of that. What we are as an organization is an exclusive network of member communities from each state. So these communities work our projects, they submit sites, they help our projects out, and we do have membership openings in a few states. So we're actively looking for economic development groups to join our network. Members help us by providing quality sites and community information to companies we work with, and there is a benefit of exclusivity when you work with us as a lead generation service. We rely on all of these elite network communities for site submissions. And we also love seeing opportunities from non-members. So if you are a non-member and you have a site or proposal that you want to submit to companies, then we extend one free site submission in the portal every 12 months. We have identified 75 active expansion projects in 2021, and that is still growing because we have a couple more weeks and we're a month and a couple weeks left in the year. So all of those projects can be found in the project portal where they are housed. The project portal essentially is a database that houses all of that information. So we have consultants, we have corporate real estate professionals and economic development organizations that go into that portal to learn more about the companies that are really needing assistance with site selection solutions to their growth needs. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ashley. She is the one that located COBOD and has been working with them. So Ashley, go ahead and tell us, everybody, how you found the project and just provide a little insight for us.
Yeah, so I was really just doing some research, on growing industries, and 3D printing is one that I've been seeing more and more projects come about. So while I was doing my research, I came across COBOD and I reached out to them because they have very new technology that is not seen around the US yet. It's super interesting. I was really excited to talk to them about their project. And one of Philip's colleagues actually put me in touch with him because he is, heading the North American expansion project. So after me and Philip got in touch, it's been, super seamless, fun. We've had a great time, discussing their project, learning more about it. They're probably one of the hardest working teams that I've ever came across. They're working, the long nights, the just extensive amount of work that goes into their project. And they've been super, super awesome to work with. So we're excited to have them here, and they're going to go in more depth. They've put together a really good slideshow for you guys. So we're excited to have them. Awesome. And then this is just kind of a general overview of their project. It is a two-step project. So phase one will be their office building that they'll actually be printing themselves. And then phase two is going to be a production facility that ideally will be located next to the office if there is a site that can potentially house both projects. So for phase one, they're looking for less than an acre, and they will be printing their own building, like I mentioned, which is super cool. You should be able to see a couple examples of the buildings that they print later on. They would like to have that site selected within 2 months of today. So when we're doing the presentation, they'll be creating 7 new jobs at that specific office year one, sales positions, majority of them. And then they're really looking all across the US. So they want to see all opportunities. They have a couple areas of initial interest, but they really do want to see what's out there. So it's a good opportunity for everybody involved. Phase two is going to be the production facility. So that will be around 20,000 square feet. They would like to have this open by 2023. They do want to kind of scope out what areas could potentially house both projects, like I mentioned. So if you can have both, that would be, great for them. They'll be creating 30 manufacturing jobs by year 5 for that facility, and they're also open to looking anywhere in the US. And then they are going to share an awesome presentation that Philip's been working very hard to present, put together to present. So with that being said, Philip.
Thank you very much, Ashley, for that nice introduction. And thanks everybody for joining in here today. We're very, very excited. We're also very honored to see this interest here in our company. Starting off, having small 3D printers using plastic to print, let's say, an iPhone cover in a basement not too many years ago, to now being all over the globe and establishing offices in the States and elsewhere is really exciting. So Ole and I are very happy to be here today and to present to all of you. Also, a big thank you to the GSLI team. We've been working together heavily with Ashley, and I can only echo what she said before. The whole process has been super seamless. And secondly, it's also helping us a lot because, we've been receiving a lot of interest from different states and different communities. And of course, this is also something that's very great, but it takes a while to sort of respond to everybody. So this whole process, bringing everybody together, is just a very, very nice way of doing things. So thank you to you too, Ashley, Eric, and the rest of the GSLI team. Now, as Ashley mentioned, I have prepared a small presentation here. So let me just go ahead and share my screen. And you just let me know if you cannot see it. There we go.
Great.
I think it's working. Super. So yes, who are we? We're COBOD International, and what do we do? Well, we're the world's leading supplier of 3D construction printers. And now this technology is quite new, so there's probably a few of you who might not have heard about it before. But essentially, it's a machine which allows you to 3D print a home or another structure using concrete. One such example you have actually here in front, where you see the machine printing an affordable house, I believe in Africa. Now, wait, sorry, I just shared the I just shared the another presentation. We're doing quite a lot of presentations here at COBOD, so it was just about finding the right one. Give me 1 second here.
All good.
This one was for another webinar we did the other day, where we had 300 people tuning in to hear the current status and the future of 3D construction printing. So I had the opportunity actually to reuse a few of those slides for this one here. Apologies. Let's see here. All good, and you'll see it has the same background. That's why. Cool. So that's us. Now, again, here's the team. I'll be presenting today, and Ole and I will both engage in the Q&A in the end. As mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders. I lead our activities in North America, and Ole is our great, always busy head of production, always trying to keep up with all the new customers and partnerships that we do. And today we would like to introduce you to our company, our partners, our products, and then lastly, our US expansion plans. So first about us. Well, COBOD is a company that was founded in 2017. We got a big grant from the government to figure out what the state of the art within 3D construction printing was at the time. The conclusion was that the technology at the time globally wasn't that particularly impressive. And thus, secondly, that there was a huge opportunity to actually go in and create the state of the art within these types of machines. Now, I believe once you've seen this presentation here, that you will see that we have actually succeeded in all humbleness. Now, we're based here in Copenhagen in our offices. That's where I'm currently sitting. However, we're opening up offices, as you know, in the States next year to cover North and Latin America. But we're also opening up regional offices in the Middle East, North Africa, and in Asia Pacific. So we're really growing a lot. This also shows by our number of employees. Right now, we're almost at 70 employees. We added another 5 this week. And just this year in January, we were just 30 employees. So really a booming business. The same goes for our sales. So we've sold more than 33 printer projects. They average around $300,000 to $700,000. And remember, we only sold our first printer in 2019. And now in this year, we're actually doubling our revenue, tripling. And last year, we doubled our revenues. So again, really moving ahead. I would say another important factor about us is that our company minority shareholder is Perry Group. Perry Group is, whom you might know, is a large German company, global. They have 10,000 employees, and they do formworks equipment and scaffolding equipment. So they are a very nice backer and a very nice partner to have in our midst. So what do we do? As mentioned, we do 3 things. 1, we develop, we manufacture, and we sell our 3D construction printers. I'll get to in a bit what exactly how they look. And it's on-site printers, so you basically use them on site of where you would do conventional construction. We also supply equipment that's related to construction, such as a concrete batch plant. So it's a full turnkey solution. Secondly, very important, we have global partnerships, and we collaborate globally with companies that are, they have a lot of expertise, and they're basically also global, or so they have their operations in almost all continents I can think of right now. So we're working together with GE. we're working together with Perry Group again, Larsen and Turbo, one of a large construction company in India with 140,000 employees. JGC, a very large engineering, procurement, and contracting company from Japan. Emar and Dala Khan, very large real estate companies from the Middle East. And then lastly, what we do a lot of research in 3D construction printing. So you can have the best 3D printer in the world, but if you also need good material, you need good concrete or mortar solutions in order to actually get a nice structure, get a nice building, for instance. So we do research with the largest cement manufacturers in the world. Number one being Halston, that's the world's largest. The third largest is CEMEX. So that's a very strong winning factor for COBOD is these partnerships that we have. We also collaborate a lot in research for, we call it construction principles. So how can you do the best reinforcement? How can you do horizontal slabs, foundations, et cetera, et cetera. And this we do with universities around the globe as well. So this was a bit about who we are and what we do. Now I want to tell you a bit about what our partners do with our technology. So they have used the 3D construction printers from COBOD to do a lot of world's first. So we actually started off in 2017 printing the world's first building in Europe. Then our partners went on to build the first 2- and 3-story building in Europe, all 3D printed. We have done, our partners have done, for instance, General Electric, wind turbine tower bases that are over 30 feet in height. I'll get to that. We have done schools in Africa, affordable housing around the globe, buildings in India, et cetera, et cetera. And this list goes on and on and on. Especially in recent times, we've had a lot more activity in the States. You can see a few example projects there at the bottom. So as mentioned, we're all across the globe, more than 30 printers sold. You can see here just the 6 continents that we're in currently. We're spending a lot of time adding flags to this map, honestly. And you can also see here the 3 global regional offices that we're opening up next year. Of course, the important one for this presentation is the US based hub covering both North and Latin America. Now, this shows you that we have a very broad geographical footprint. But if you look at the partner and customer base to the left, that's also very broad. We have construction companies, wind turbine manufacturers such as GE, precast plants. You have EPCs, real estate developers, R&D institutions such as universities and others. So we're really, we've seen our technology be used for so many use cases and in so many regions across the globe. And we only see continuing in the future. Now, just a bit about 3D construction printing and what it is. Now you have heard a bit about our company. I just want to showcase to you how it actually looks, because for this technology, seeing is really believing. So if you've heard about 3D construction printing before, I hope you'll get impressed. If you haven't, you'll get even more impressed. Here's a video done by our partner and minority investor Perry in Germany. And I believe you can probably not hear the audio here. I can, so I'm just gonna voice over. This was a project done in Germany. They did a 3-story home around 4,000 square feet. You can see here the machine where you have the printer. Here you see a time lapse of how the printer actually extrudes the concrete, adding layers on top of layers. And when that concrete cures, that's basically what produces the final building. Here you can see how the other contractors, they come in and they work alongside the printer. So it's a very nice collaborative model between new technology and conventional construction, as you can see here. It always fascinates me to see this come together. It's quite fantastic, right? Because back in the old days, you would have people, let's say, do stick frame or masonry, etc. Very tough work. There's a lack of skilled labor. Whereas here we just replace it with the machine. It's a 3-story home, and then here at the end you can see the roof being done with conventional stick frame. So thanks to Perry for making this video and doing this project. How was it done? Well, our printer setup consists of two parts. One is the printer itself. The other is the concrete batch plant. That's the little blue setup there to the side. Now, our printer is modular, which means that you can go very, very small. This we usually see for universities. They like to go a bit smaller. But then if you're out in the real world, say you're a general contractor, then they usually go for a bit larger. So you simply just add additional modules. You can print up to 3 stories in height with this printer. So around almost 30 feet. In the width, you can go up to 40 feet. And in the length, that's basically unlimited because you just add additional vertical towers, as you can see. You can also see it here to the right. Maybe if you look closely in the back, you can see it simply just extends and extends. So this is the technology we sell. This is one of the printers we have. We have another larger printer coming out next year, which can do even greater things. So our current pipeline is very good, but our future pipeline is even greater. And this is, again, by far the world's most sold 3D construction printer. There are many reasons why we have the best one in the world. You know, I'm not trying to sell you the exact printer today, so I will not go over this actually, I think. But one key feature that we have, you can see it to the right there, is that we can create super smooth walls with this technology. So it becomes super flat, making it very easy to do subsequent plastering, painting, et cetera, et cetera. It's also fast. The machines are easy to use. You don't need a big crew to operate it, et cetera, et cetera. So many reasons why this is the world's best 3D construction printer and why it's by far the best selling printer also. Why would you use 3D construction printing? Because, you know, we have a lot of customers, but why are they actually buying it? And I know we also have some customers and partners calling in here today, and good to see you guys. Well, we see 4 key reasons for 3D construction printing. And the 4 benefits are: number 1, automation. You reduce the labor on site, the volume of people working there. And right now it's very important because, as you know, the skilled labor force for construction is in very high demand, but the supply is not really there. Secondly, sustainability. By 3D printing with concrete in the way we do, we can print more efficiently than conventionally. For instance, you don't need to make all walls load bearing. You can actually print and design the building such that it only happens in some areas. You reduce the waste by only printing what you need. There's no need to carve out any sockets for electricity, holes for plumbing, et cetera, et cetera. That's just included in the print. And then there's possibilities to do a lot new materials, in which you can recycle, for instance, roof tiles to replace some of the cement content. Number 3 is speed. So by 3D printing buildings, you can do it with time. You can do it faster than conventional construction, which gives you a larger return on investment for these projects that you do. And number 4, which I find fascinating as well, is actually the design freedom. So we go away from this box thinking where a house is just this weird rectangle with a slanted or a flat roof. Now you can actually print curves, so you can integrate different elements such as a bathtub or a kitchen island while you print. So there are 4 good reasons why 3D construction printing brings benefit to construction. I would like to jump quickly into automation, which is one of the key ones. So now we're just gonna deep dive here. So why is automation important? Well, 4 reasons. Number 1, a McKinsey report from a few years ago mentioned that 50% almost of all construction activities can be automated. The industry is lagging a lot of the other industries, and there's really a big potential to catch up here. Secondly, as mentioned, there's a global shortage of skilled labor, and there's an increased demand for construction work. Especially, we see this in the States, right? There's so many buildings, so many structures coming up. I know also with the stimulus package from the government that was signed recently, et cetera, it's just booming. Number 3, the increase in cost of materials, for instance, for timber and for steel. And then number 4, which is also something we hear from a lot of our clients, which is the shortage of affordable housing. So we really want to drive costs down for these buildings by automating. Now, we see 3D printing, it has a lot of benefits, and it's here to stay, right? And I think one key example of why this is happening, or a sort of good indicator that it's going to continue, is the number of 3D construction printing companies that are popping up in the world. So if we look back, only 10, 20 years, there you were at 5 to 10 different 3D construction printing companies. And then it has slowly increased. And the same if you look at, it has not slowly, it has increased rapidly. Now we're at 40 different companies, and it's increasing more and more. If you look at patents, it's the same. If you look at publications, number of projects, et cetera, it's investments, it's popping up all over the globe. And we think it's only going to increase from here, honestly. So that was a bit about COBOD and who we are and what are the benefits of 3D construction printing. Now, to something that's potentially a bit more interesting to a lot here is how does it actually look in practice? Because seeing, as mentioned, is really believing. Here you have an overview of some of our key project partners around the globe. I mentioned them before, so I'm not gonna jump into them again, but instead I'm gonna show you some nice photos here. This one here is done by COBOD, one of our clients in Belgium. 3D printed this 2 years ago. It's around 1,000 square feet. It's in 2 floors. You can actually see the printer surrounding the building as it was finished. And to the right, you can see how it looks indoors. Now, this was all 3D printed in just 21 days. And the fun thing is here, the machines are not complicated to operate. We did some live training of local university students, and they were super eager, these university students, to get involved. And we said, okay, well, you can go ahead. So with COBOD, our client, they actually managed to print around 7 hours per day, and then finish this in just 21 days. So really a fantastic job by these guys. Another project here, which has been going all around the globe, done by Perry Group, our minority investor and partner, 1,700 square feet, also in 2 floors. Now, it took 36 days to print, but notice here that the ground floor took 28 days, whereas the top floor took only 8 days. So there's a very steep learning curve, and our clients are basically printing faster and faster, more and more efficiently. And this is one key example. You can also see how beautiful it looks. To the right, you have the kitchen. You even have that bathtub I mentioned before, right? So the design freedom of actually being able to print the walls along with interior elements. And I want to mention here again, it's not a lab thing, right? You have actual people living in this home. So they moved in Q3 this year in Germany, which has one of the strictest building codes in the world. Another project here, also done in Germany by Perry, more than double the size, so 4,100 square feet. This was in 3 floors. This was the one you saw before in the video I showed. And notice here, quite fantastically, this was done in just 21 days. The other one was done in 36 days. So despite, increasing by more than a factor of 2 the size of the building, you reduce the number of days it took by 15 on the second project. Imagine when they do their 4th, 5th, and 6th project, right? A lot of efficiency gains to be made here. Again, people are actually living in this house. It's 5 apartments. It can also be used to print schools. This was done in Africa by Halston, the world's largest cement manufacturer, one of our partners. It took only 18 hours to print. It brings these schools closer to the local children, so they don't have to travel too far to get up too early in the morning to go to school. So this is actually one of the projects that we're most proud of here in COBOD. Notice also that Halston did some calculations, and compared to conventional masonry, they believe that the greenhouse gas emissions can be cut by up to 70%. Also good for the environment. Besides residential and the school project here, we are also doing large projects with commercial applications. So here is our collaboration with GE. We're printing wind turbine tower bases to increase the height of the wind turbines. Why do you want to do that? Well, for onshore wind turbines, you can increase the height by printing on site. And that's important because right now the wind turbines, they max out at around 300 feet, so around 100 meters. And this means that, or this happens because you cannot increase the base or the diameter of the turbine tower. So you cannot go taller than that, which is why if you print on site, you basically circumvent it. Now, this was done in just 3 weeks. We used 100 tons of concrete, and it's 33 feet high, right? So very, very tall. Next year, we're actually shipping, just this week, we're shipping another printer to GE, and they're going to start printing up to 20 meters in height, or more than 60 to 70 feet. Also here, we did it in 3 weeks, but then 1 year later, so which was in 2020, we did it in just 3 days. So a huge productivity improvement we saw again. And GE actually put this to the table for your President Biden's. They did a climate summit for world leaders in April, and this was presented to them. So also we were very, very proud of this one and the possibilities for the environment, what you can really do here if you think outside of the box. So this was a bit about us, a bit about why you would use 3D construction printing, and some projects done by us. Could one of the GSLI organizers just tell me how long time I have left here?
You take as much time as you need, if you can, maybe about 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and then we'll get into our Q&A.
Okay, I'll ask for 10 minutes, and then
there
I will. Thanks a lot, Eric. So our U.S. expansion plans, it's going well, but wait till you see this. This is really going to take us and the local community to the next level. So our plan is next year, we're going to open up a competence center in the United States, covering North and Latin America. Now, the year later, so in 2023, we're going to open up manufacturing such that we can actually assemble printers also in the States. Now, the competence center next year, we're actually going to print this all by ourselves because, we want to have proof of concept such that when we have visitors, we can actually tell them that they're sitting in the house that was 3D printed. And it's going to cover sales, it's going to cover architects, our installers, et cetera, et cetera. Then the year after, as mentioned, we want to open up manufacturing or assembly in the States. Potentially, we would like that to have close to our competence center, because that's just easier from a collaborative perspective. And of course, as mentioned before, we're open to any state in the United States. Now, what are we bringing to the local community? Well, we see 3 things that we will bring. One is jobs. So we expect in around 5 years to have 40 to 50 jobs created. These are typically high-skilled jobs. So we want engineers for manufacturing. We're talking sales. We're talking management positions, et cetera, et cetera. But we also believe it's going to create a lot of indirect jobs, right? Because we're going to have sub-suppliers there, and our end customers is of course also going to be in that state. Construction companies, potentially R&D companies within architecture, within structural engineering, et cetera, which is all going to be part of this network within this booming industry. Number 2 is we're going to bring expertise, and we're going to bring a lot of potential for local partnerships. So when we say local partnerships, and we can open this up in the Q&A, right? But one thing that we do around the globe is collaborate with local universities. Not only do we sell printers, but we also help to do training with the local universities, do curriculum, do different plans for upskilling of people in the construction industry, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of collaborative models here. I'm going to get to that in just a second. And of course, we're going to bring a lot of expertise, being the world's biggest supplier of 3D construction printers. Number 3 is we're going to bring a lot of attention and a great outside perception to the local community. Because what we've seen from our experience is that whenever a new building is going up, the local population is going to visit, media, local media, global media, and I'm going to also show you some great examples of just that. And then, of course, we think it's very important that when COBOD will establish ourselves, that local community will benefit from being perceived as a center of excellence for 3D construction printing, such as you always relate, at least that's what we do here in Europe, but Detroit with the car manufacturers, right? We believe we have the potential to do the same for 3D construction printing. Now I would like to jump into each of these 3 benefits. Number 1, so our timeline for the jobs created. Here you can see how we, in 2022, we will establish our competence center. First, we're gonna go there and probably rent a local office hotel, but then quite quickly, we want to have finalized our own 3D printed building. And fun fact, we actually already have 4 positions covered, ready to move into that state. Actually, I think 5, because we bring people over here to train them, and those people that are now going to move back to the States to go full-time, they will do so in a short while, and they'll be ready to be working from that particular area. Now, this is going to increase such that we reach around 40 to 50 jobs in just 5 years. At this point, we will be producing and selling around 70 printers. And of course, I should mention that we expect, again, manufacturing to start in 2023, a year after having established our competence center. The combined sales value of these 70 printers sold across the states, so across the States, Canada, and Latin America, it's going to be, I would say, 40 to 50 million US dollars. So that's our expected plan, our expected numbers for the next 5 years. Secondly, the other benefit of COBOD coming is the potential to create great local partnerships. Here I've shown just how we collaborate with other industry players. So it's not just that we develop these printers and sell them. We actually collaborate with a lot of different stakeholders in the industry. For instance, cement suppliers, real estate developers, and architecture, companies that do the actual execution of 3D construction printing projects, contractors that come in after, local plumbers, roofers, those that do sidings, et cetera. We also work a lot with engineers, both local structural engineers, and of course the R&D possibilities here with, for instance, local universities or similar companies to what we do with GE. So a lot of potential to, we see COBOD being part of the local community, not just coming in as an outside company producing. We really want to interact with all stakeholders involved in construction. And then the last point, the last benefit here I want to mention is the media attention that we're going to bring. Here are just a few examples of what's happening around the globe. I could put in 100 more examples, but World Economic Forum got us covered. In the lower left-hand corner, I can see, so yeah, this was Habitat for Humanity printing in Arizona, covered by Fox. You have Biden, you have some European examples, et cetera, et cetera. So this is really going to create the outside perception of that community being a local partner with a lot of 3D construction printing expertise. Lastly, I quickly want to touch upon what will simply unlock this US expansion plan. So we see 4 main elements, and of course, we're happy to do the Q&A right after, so I'm just going to go over quickly. But for sites and facilities, again, here we're looking to lease a competence or the lot to do the competence center, which we will print. For manufacturing and assembly, however, we are open to do existing building for leasing. I'll jump into that in just a sec. For infrastructure, it'd be very good to have close proximity to a maritime port, an airport with good flight connections, right? Because we have a lot of customers, not only from the States and Canada, but also from Latin America. So that's also important. Steel manufacturers and other sub-suppliers and freight forwarders, such that we can quickly get these printers out as we finish them. Now, in terms of number 3 here, labor, well, we would appreciate access to cheap, or not cheap labor, but to skilled labor. Likely it's not going to be that cheap because we're all looking again to hire engineers, management, et cetera, et cetera. And then lastly, the investment range we believe is around 2 to 4 million US dollars. Just jumping quickly into our future plans on sort of the facilities, and then I'll open up for the Q&A. This is a rendering that we did of how our 3D printed office space or competence center could look like in the States. We see it as being around 3,000 square feet. We will actually be having a COBOD 3D printer inside the building. And our architects, you can see they're already designing the building. So we're moving fast ahead and can't wait to have this printed in the States. Then the year after, in 2023, we want to open up manufacturing. So that's going to be mainly within assembly. We're here looking for around 20,000 square feet, but of course, this is going to increase as we produce more and more printers. We expect to print around 4 to 6 printers. It's supposed to be, say, here per month. So 4 to 6 printers per month. And again, it's going to be in different sizes with employees that are engineers, for instance, mechanical or mechatronics. And you can see a bit about our utilities needs, but let's just get to that once we get to the Q&A if people are interested. Here you can see how or which key activities are happening in our assembly facility. So there are 4 key activities, and Ole, our head of manufacturing here, can speak more to that later. But there's the assembly and disassembly of the printers. Then we do a test print, right? So we want to make sure that our customers that receive our printers, that the machines are fully operating with no errors whatsoever. Of course, we pack the printers once they're disassembled, and then they're shipped off to the customers. So these are the 4 key activities that will happen, and of course we can speak more to that in just a bit. So I want to say thanks a lot for listening in to this presentation here. We're very excited to be opening up in the States, and we're looking much forward to hearing your questions. Over to you, Eric.
Philip, thank you so much. And there's a couple of things that really excite me about your project. First, that we're able to do this and you're sitting there in Copenhagen, which is the technology always excites me, that we can communicate across such vast areas and still be able to conduct site selection and get you information from communities. Second, you're addressing a need. There is an extreme shortage in housing, and a lot of the communities that we're talking about need housing. In fact, they're saying, how can we work or partner with a company to increase our housing and, more important, low income housing? And I like the fact that you're moderate in the number of your jobs. A lot of the projects that we've worked with, there are higher number of jobs, and the workforces can't be supported in a lot of communities. And not only are they moderate jobs, but they're high paying jobs, they're highly skilled, and it's a very high profile company. As I talked with you yesterday, we helped a company move from Barcelona. They announced in Arlington, Texas, and Forbes, the television stations, everybody's been all over them impressed. So the amount of, I would call it trickle down exposure that the community is getting out of that project is really good. And I see a lot of synergies between the project that you're bringing to the US and that project. So diving in, we've gotten some questions from people, and we kind of want to work through those. And I see some questions flowing in, so we'll work through these as quick as we can. But I always like to start, and talk about your key motivations. What is the motivation for moving to the U.S. market? And you've talked to me a little bit about the importance of flights and access to Latin America and Canada and things like that. So kind of speak to that. First, talk about the motivation.
Of course, and thanks for the flattering words, Eric. There are several motivations for us. Personally, I used to study in Austin, Texas, and I just love the States, and I can't wait to move back. On a company level, one, as you mentioned, Eric, is the flight connections to or just proximity in general to our customers. We're used to having meetings until 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning in order to accommodate our current and future customers in the States. Now, being able to actually service them and being able to communicate with them locally just makes a lot of sense for us. So our installers don't have to fly from one continent to the next every time we install a new printer for a customer. This, of course, also means that the second point is in terms of logistics or transport of these printers. Now, as everybody knows here, the global disruptions in logistics across the globe means that we simply don't know these days if it takes 1 week to transport a printer, or if it takes several weeks, right? And that's just a frustration for us and our customers. So we want to make it easier on everybody's end to just produce where we're actually installing them. And I would say number 3 key reason is the being able to produce more printers. You know, Ole, he's German, he's very efficient and can produce a lot of printers in his manufacturing facilities. However, our demand is increasing by so much that sometimes it's hard for us to keep pace. We have sold more than 30 printers in total, of which 20 plus was just this year, right? So being able to actually have that in the States as well will certainly help in that aspect.
Perfect.
Those are the 3 key reasons. Thanks.
Absolutely. Now you've talked with us a little bit. The next 3 questions you've pretty much covered over your presentation, which thank you for doing that. But in terms of regional interests, what are some factors that will allow a community to get on your short list? If they can do X, you'll at least give them a shot and take a look at them and put them into consideration. I know flights is one of your big ones. Are there any other things that they can do and present to you to say, hey, we don't have this, but we have this and this. We'd love to get on your short list.
Of course, and we're open to any proposal, right? We'll go through all of them, but a few points here. Flights is makes a lot of sense. Secondly, you know, having the possibility for a land or a lot on which we can 3D print our own building and have quick permitting, and to that also have production facilities nearby that can accommodate to our specifications how we construct these printers, also important. Thirdly, I would say, you know, potential to collaborate with local partners. You know, a university makes a lot of sense for us to work with. Having the local students come in or have a printer at their site to basically learn and to develop this technology together. We can create curriculum, etc. Is also like a very, very nice way of you know, us being established in the community, and it also helps us a lot. Number 4, you know, labor, right? Skilled labor engineers to do the commissioning of these printers. They're, you know, quite complex to establish. They're not quite complex to use, but it requires that capability. So there are many different factors that we're looking into, and that was just a few.
Now, are there any other, looking at this next question, are there any clusters that make sense? So if a community says, hey, we have an industry cluster of high tech X or whatever it is, are there clusters that you're looking for that could make sense to locate near?
Yes, I would say 2 types of clusters that come to mind. One, as you mentioned, Eric, here, a tech cluster, I think makes a lot of sense, or other, you know, industry players to be close by to. Right now, where we're producing here in Copenhagen is in an industrial area. It's next to a free port, and it makes things very easy for us for sub-suppliers to come in and for us to produce and ship it over. And I would assume that being the same in US tech clusters. So that's one, and second cluster, again, you know, R&D players. So for instance, universities would also be a tremendous opportunity for not only COBOD, but also the local university to be near.
All right.
We have a lot of sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you know, a lot of our employees, right, we're at almost 70 now, they come in as university students. They're so eager to learn. They come, you know, in my team, in the past 3 months, I've had 3 or 4, you know, of your fellow countrymen come in, and they're so happy to learn, and then come back to university, finish university, and then they have a job with COBOD once finished. I think that's a tremendous opportunity, not only for the local university, but also for the students and of course for us.
So that kind of answers the question. So you'll be conducting or facilitating the training over in Copenhagen for employees, or will you also be expanding that to U.S. training of your employees?
That will be when we're fully up and running. That will be all in the States.
Okay.
We see this regional office as being, you know, besides R&D, it's going to be completely autonomous from the rest of COBOD.
Perfect.
the whole plan.
So the kind of the last one, this one came up yesterday in our discussions in terms of available incentives. There's a lot of different ones we work with and talk with communities. We never encourage a project to make a decision based on incentives. Some help shorten the time frame between phases and things like that. How important to your getting this project going, if you find the right location, how important are those incentives for you?
Well, thanks. I would say first up, one thing that's super important to us is having a good connection with the local community, right? So we would like to spend a lot of time beforehand to make that decision, meet all of the different communities that are interested, and to see to have a look at each other and see if there is a good connection. Because I think collaborating on this is very, very important. Now, besides that, I would say incentives are, of course, important. Things that would make us easier. Again, having that option for a local lot, or to do a lease of that land where we'll 3D print our own competence center, or could lease the production facilities potentially with incentives in that direction would certainly help us sort of steer into that community. Definitely.
Perfect. All right, let's dive into our Q&A that were flowing in on our question and answer board. The first one's coming from Amanda Tompkins. Amanda is with our team. She's one of our tremendous community assessment directors. She works with our communities in assessing, what communities make sense and helping them prepare packets of information for you to review. And I see she's asking some questions for some of her communities that she works with, but she's asked a little bit about Florida. We touched into that, and you did address you'd be interested in other locations other than Florida, correct?
Yes, of course. I can just say up front that initially we thought, okay, Florida would be a good location, right? Because it ticked off some of the different criteria that we have. For instance, good flight connection, which is key. And also we have one of our distributors there. However, we're open to all states. It was just, we're European, that state was close, and we thought, okay, that's just one example of a state that could make sense. But we're fully open, just to be fully clear about that.
Anna, are you doing any other simultaneous projects in either South America or Canada, or focused right now on this US and then future ones after that?
So if I understand it correctly, are we also opening up similar centers in other areas besides the States?
Yeah.
No, so and not in those two continents. So in the States, we're going to establish this hub here. That's going to cover North and Latin America, including for production. The other areas the other continents are going to be managed from APAC, Asia Pacific. And then we're going to have one as well in the Middle East and Northern Africa. But the US is going to be the spearhead. It's going to be the first one, and it's going to be the only one for those two continents. Okay,
perfect. So Mary Lilly, she's one of our elite members out in Greenfield, North Carolina. Mary, thank you for your question. She's got two here. The first one is, what are there any specific, what are your raw material needs? And would you be interested in advanced materials research in cooperation with your project?
I think, Ole, why don't you take that one on materials?
If I understand the question correct, then you're referring to advanced material research as in printing materials, which is not part of manufacturing, but of course for us it is important to have material experts close to be able to develop the local materials that we are going to print with our printers.
Yeah, Ola, what are the specific materials, raw materials that you actually need near this facility, or do you?
Well, for our commissioning test prints, we use concrete, which is consists of sand aggregates and cement and water. Pretty basic. Nonetheless, the aggregates have to have a certain specification, but it's very basic materials in that sense. manufacturing materials, and I would like to add that to the logical industry clusters. That would be steel mills and steel manufacturers in the area, because right now with the global struggle and shortage of steel, also in Europe, we are really seeing shortages in the steel supplies, and our machine is made of a lot of steel, so that would be very important for the manufacturing side.
Perfect. Mary, your other question about initial capital investment, I believe, if I remember right, it's $2 to $4 million. Correct, Philip?
That's correct. Yeah.
Cindy. Cindy is from Liberal, Kansas, another one of our elite cities. She's asking, what size of community are you looking to move to? Is there a preference? Like, do you want to be in a metro area, a rural area, or does it matter?
Ole, do you want to take that one?
I can only talk about the status quo. Right now we're in Copenhagen, we're in the northern harbor, we're very close to the port, we are very close to the city, we are very close to the airport. Everything here is pretty perfect. We're close to the university as well. We have all that very close, and even the suppliers, my suppliers, are very close. Denmark is a very small country compared to the US, so everything is close anyways. But in the States, I think we should be somewhere close to a metropolitan area.
Okay, perfect. Justin, I can take yours. Justin is stating here he can bring capital for your projects as well as land deals throughout North America and on state and federal levels. Very interested in partnering with you together in your North America plan. Justin, we will try to connect you guys and talk with Philip offline on that and see where we can connect you. Jim, and I am not sure how to pronounce your last name because it's as difficult as mine, but it looks like Linsenmeyer. How does your technology differ from what Icon and Lennar announced for residential projects in Texas and Florida, if you're familiar with those?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So we're familiar with those two companies. So we differ in two ways. One is the technology itself. So our technology is by far the world's most advanced technology, which is also why it's the world's most sold technology within 3D construction printing. We would say we're at least 2 years ahead of the competition. We've had a head start. We've deployed our printers all over the world, which means we get a lot of feedback, and that feedback we integrate directly from our customers. All of our customers that are calling in today, they can speak to this, maybe not now, but in general, they know that we listen to them. We provide feedback from other customers and integrate that also in their hardware and software. So that means that we're years ahead. For instance, we can print faster. We can do 3-story buildings. Most of from the competition can do only 1-story building. And those that mentioned that they could do several stories have not done it, or they have maybe done it in a lab, but not out in the real world. So larger and more sophisticated hardware and software.
Awesome, thanks. Absolutely.
Second point is we have, which many players don't, we have an open garden strategy, not a closed garden, meaning that we collaborate. We're the technology provider, but as you saw before in that diagram I showed you, we collaborate with so many great companies related to construction, R&D, material providers, companies that execute projects, architects, structural engineers, universities, et cetera, et cetera. Many of the other companies of those competitors that were mentioned, they do projects. They work a lot with themselves. They do proprietary materials, et cetera. They don't have open source, et cetera, which means that they're not getting in all of this expertise from the conventional global and local industry players. Construction is a very much so a local industry. It's not a global one. So that's why we think it's important that we collaborate with as many small and larger players in the industry.
Perfect. So I've got two questions here from Sean McGuire. His first question is kind of just maybe a information-based one. He wants to know, how are your printers transported? Crated, container, other?
Preferably in sea freight containers. It's the safest way to transport the machinery. It's also great for storage on site. And otherwise, it's possible to put it on semi-trailers, and we could also put the containers on a railroad train, I guess.
Okay, and this kind of feeds off of what you mentioned a little earlier. He asks, how much will you source outside of the U.S.? You mentioned the Freeport location in Copenhagen as a foreign trade zone, an essential component for the project.
No, no, that is not. We are located there, but it doesn't have to be a free trading zone or anything. On the contrary, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get things out on the road if the custom employees are having a bad day. And
all right,
I would say just to that, like an industrial area, with other manufacturers, one max perhaps 2 hours away from a local airport, where we can also have our office space or competence center next to that. That's what we're looking for, and I think this can come in many ways, shapes, and sizes. And we're open to hearing, any recommendation on your guys' end.
Yeah. Also, for like the current situation in Copenhagen is that we are actually sharing our hall with our neighbors that are servicing all the machinery in the harbor. Great neighbors, and if we need a tool or they need a tool, we can just go over there and borrow that. So that would also be imaginable in the future.
All right, Philip, I've got Abdul here. He's very interested in your project. It seems he's from Kensington Economic Development in Canada. But I think I know where this one's going to go. But he compliments you on your great presentation and product. Are you seeking sites in just the U.S. or just one location? Is Canada an option for future expansions?
Thanks for the interest. We've been looking at the States. We've already established our company. COBOD North America is established in the States. So initially, I think we will, start off in the States. What happens in the future, I cannot speak to. We already have great distributor in Ontario, but I mean, we're open to hearing any suggestion. But right now we are focused on the States.
Matt, this is a great question from Matt Wavering. How are your printers manufactured? Does it require a lot of manufacturing equipment?
Well, we mostly do assembly here in Copenhagen. We designed all the parts for the printer, but they are made by our suppliers. A lot of them are actually robot welded. And we are not manufacturing many parts ourselves. It's mostly assembly.
Perfect. I've got two more questions right now, so we're going to be wrapping up here pretty quick. So if you do have a question, please make sure you get it in there. I want to make sure everybody's questions are answered. We've got Bob Largent. Great question here. You kind of tipped into it, but I'd like to get it back on record. How close is close to flight connections and or ports? What role does quality of life and cost of living play if workforce, education, and property are all equal?
Yeah, so touching on that, 1 hour, max 2 hours drive from the airport to the production and competence center would be ideal. And the reason being, let's say one of our customers, they fly in from Argentina or something like that. It's just good if they don't have to spend too much time commuting if they come in the morning. So if that's possible, that would be ideal. Or if there's exceptionally good public transport, that could also work. But for the most part, I know that US is very much based on cars and trucks, etc. In terms of quality of life, well, I mean, that's also something that we're looking into, right? Because we are going to employ, as mentioned, around 40 to 50 employees, we believe, in 5 years. myself including. So, and I like, to have a nice, local community. Yeah. So with all that encompasses, so this is all, of course, also important factors to us.
Touching under those factors, this is an anonymous guest asking, is proximity to existing partners such as General Electric a factor in making your decision?
Not to existing partners. So we already have General Electric up in New York. We actually have our guys ship their equipment to them from next week. That's basically going to run on the side, right? And we're going to have multiple partnerships in the States, but that's sort of, on the side of our competence center and our production.
Perfect. Last question here, and this is from Patrick Vanderpool from Tucumcari, New Mexico. And Patrick actually hosted me there, and I really enjoyed learning about the community. So I know where this question's kind of coming from, but it's kind of a posed question. They're a small historic Route 66 community on I-40. They're in eastern New Mexico. They don't have a lot of the proximity things you're looking for, but with that said, they've got many connections for us. Mesa Lands Community College, North American Wind Research Center, a training center, a robust building trading program, trade program, and emerging 3D printing training program. They also have local landowners that really need to build housing to fill a serious housing shortage. So they're seriously looking at technology like yours to help them with that. Is there a way that you can partner with them? Is this a consideration? Would you take a look at that community?
Thanks for suggesting this. I would say yes, we would definitely have a look at it. From those things you mentioned, it sounds great. For instance, with the training program, I mean, that's amazing. Another thing I can foresee here is that New Mexico, of course, is close to Mexico, where we could potentially have steel transported in, which is important for our machinery. So there are many different ways that we're looking at, and this would likely be one that we'd be interested in hearing more about. Definitely.
Awesome. That's all our questions, and I think you did an amazing job in the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Brooke. Why don't we talk about how to submit on this project so we can get you in connection with some of these communities?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for a great presentation. So we're going to put up a quick poll, and this is going to just gauge your interest in this project. If you're interested in making a submission, submitting a proposal through the project portal as a member or non-member, please let us know and just check mark yes. And if you're interested, our team will definitely reach out to assist in helping you kind of optimize your submission. Those submissions are also due in the project portal by December 9th at 5 p.m. Central. And we will be vetting member and non-member submissions with the COBOD team. The company will receive member submissions first for first review, just to go through those. And then they will also look through non-member submissions as well. And they have full reign to reach out to communities of interest for further discussion after that deadline date passes. Usually it takes a couple weeks to review submissions when the deadline after that deadline. So just be mindful of that. And depending on how many submissions they review, they will reach out accordingly. And we are going to be posting this recording in the project portal, and that is www.gslipprojectportal.com. You are just going to be looking up the project code name, and you will be able to find that recording immediately right on the information for the project. And
yeah, Brooke, if you could, I want to mention also on the submissions, we have added, and it's been in there for a little while, updates. So after we receive the submissions and we get these over to Philip and his team, as we receive more information, we will include all updates that we have into that portal. So do make sure you're checking in. If a new update is there, there's a little bell that appears next to the project so that you know there's an update on the project. When we're coordinating this amount of information between the project and the community, that's the easiest way for us to communicate back to you all of those updates.
And we'll try to make sure to stay on top of providing updates as the company's reviewing submissions, or if there's needed time to go through submissions, how long that process will be. So just if you add it into your pipeline, you'll be able to really see just the flow of updates that we make on that project. All right, this is the information for the team members that you can reach out to for additional help. Amanda and Carol are our community assessment directors, and they assist states and economic development groups across the United States to make an effective submission within the portal. And Ashley is the project manager for this project. So if you have any additional questions, all of their information is there. I'll just leave this up for 1 second so you guys can write down an email, put down a phone number. And you will see that the project portal website is listed right there in the lower left-hand corner. You will be able to go there and view additional projects that we have listed in there and quickly find the Project 3D construction printers project there listed. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And to learn more about all those additional projects that we have in the portal, you can visit the project portal. And COBOD team, thank you so much for the information that you shared today. We have greatly appreciated your team's time and thorough explanation of what you guys are looking to do. This is a very exciting project. So we've loved working with you. I know I can speak on behalf of Ashley and Eric as well.
Yep. And communities, thank you so much. I know how busy you are running your cities and to carve out this amount of time and to listen to this project, we greatly appreciate, and we hope this project lands in one of your communities. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
With that said,
Great.
till our next Prospect Live. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot for
Thank you.
listening in. Cheers.